Imagine an evening when the city is enveloped in the soft light of street lamps, and somewhere unseen by the eye, deep within matter, a mysterious dance of tiny particles whirl. What seems solid and unchanging actually obeys the most complex laws of quantum mechanics, which have overturned our perception of the world and fundamentally changed our understanding of life and death. The realm of the micro-world, where uncertainty and probabilities reign, opens doors to mysterious phenomena whose meaning still sparks debate and amazes scientists. The emergence of quantum theory at the beginning of the 20th century initiated a revolution in science, forcing a change in the view of the nature of reality. The very thought that quantum theory can change our view on the most relentless, death itself, evokes a mixture of excitement and awe. One of the most intriguing and exciting ideas today is the concept of quantum immortality, the hypothesis that death is not final and consciousness continues in numerous parallel universes containing countless variations of life and death. Recent peer-reviewed research shows that this concept has ceased to be mere theoretical speculation, turning into a subject of serious academic discussion. A very important contribution has been made by neurophysiologists who, in a series of 2024 articles in the Journal of Neuroscience, demonstrated that upon entering clinical death, brain activity does not disappear instantly, but exhibits waves similar to wakefulness, while unusual patterns of neuron synchronization are recorded. An article about this study, entitled "Consciousness and the Dying Brain," describes how scientists studied the brain activity of people on the brink of clinical death. That is, at the moment when the heart stops beating and breathing ceases. Researchers connected special equipment for recording the brain's electrical signals, electroencephalographs, to patients in critical condition. They carefully analyzed what was happening in the brain during those minutes when consciousness is traditionally considered to disappear. They connected special equipment for recording electrical brain signals, electroencephalographs, to patients in critical condition. They closely analyzed what was happening in the brain during the minutes when consciousness is traditionally believed to have disappeared. To the team's surprise, the brain did not shut down immediately in these moments. On the contrary, scientists observed waves of activity very similar to those characteristic of wakefulness. Particularly notable was the so-called gamma activity, rapid brain oscillations associated with awareness and cognitive processes. Moreover, the scientists noticed unusual patterns, synchronization of activity between different parts of the brain, indicating that the brain might have remained on until the very end, and possibly even perceiving the surroundings. These results provide grounds to hypothesize that consciousness does not simply disappear instantly with clinical death, but may persist, change, and even transform in transitional state. For simple understanding, this can be imagined as a light gradually going out, not instantly, but flickering slowly in the darkness. Such a light is very hard to call completely extinguished. This work does not offer definitive answers, but opens the fantastic possibility to understand that between life and death, there exists a transitional state in which consciousness continues to exist, possibly in another form, which aligns it with the ideas of quantum immortality. All of this makes the study an important step toward understanding what happens to us in the last moments of life and how the brain and consciousness are connected to the greatest mystery of existence. The depth of the idea of quantum immortality astonishes the imagination, since this theory is based not on guesses, but on serious physical experiments and observations that embody the most paradoxical properties of matter. According to this concept, your consciousness cannot simply vanish at the moment of death, because subjectively it continues in the universe where you survive. That is, the quantum state of a person in lethal circumstances exists simultaneously in multiple probabilistic outcomes, and consciousness jumps to those versions of reality where it persists. This is not merely a fantasy, but an attempt to explain mysterious near-death experiences recorded by thousands of people worldwide. Patients often describe extraordinarily vivid visions and an out-of-body sensation during clinical death. Such a phenomenon has become a subject of study in resuscitation medicine, and quantum physics offers a fundamental mechanism explaining how consciousness might not dissolve forever, but transition into other forms of existence. In general, The bold idea of quantum immortality was partly born from the famous Orch OR hypothesis, proposed in the 1990s by the outstanding physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. Penrose, a Nobel laureate and professor at Oxford, author of fundamental theorems on the nature of space and time, devoted many years to studying quantum effects in the brain, linking them with the phenomenon of consciousness. He claims that microtubules inside neurons can exist in a state of quantum superposition, interacting and thereby creating unique states that form subjective experience. A peer-reviewed article in 2023 by an international team of scientists based on data at ultra-low temperatures proposed a mechanism allowing microtubules, fundamental structures of neurons, to act like quantum computers. This work, published in the journal Quantum Biosystems, was a breakthrough since it was the first to describe how the quantum superposition state of brain cells can persist long enough to influence consciousness and possibly the essence of life itself. This theory suggests looking at the brain not only as a biological organ, but also as a quantum computer, whose capabilities are so deep that classical physics cannot fully explain the processes underlying consciousness. More about this theory and research can be found in previous videos on our channel. Here, consciousness ceases to be a simple result of biochemistry and acquires the status of a fundamental phenomenon linked with properties of quantum matter. At the core of quantum theory lies the principle of superposition, demonstrated by the classic double-slit experiment. Particles passing through the slits behave like waves, simultaneously being in multiple states. Observation fixes one specific reality from many, forcing the particle to choose a certain state. Albert Einstein, while partially critical of some conclusions in quantum mechanics, called such effects manifestations of the wondrousness of the world, which do not fit usual framework. Such paradoxes, like the famous Schrödinger's cat, remind us that on the micro level, the process of dying is not one grand event, but a series of probabilities where the observer becomes part of the system. That is, according to quantum theories, death is not the final point, but only the end of one branch of existence, a transition of consciousness to another reality. Supporting this view, physicist Alain in the 1980s proved quantum entanglement, a state where particles become interconnected at any distance. This phenomenon shows that particles can remain connected even after separation, changing their states synchronously, as if space and time lose their usual meaning. Therefore, when discussing the cessation of existence, the question itself becomes less obvious than it seems. If connection between particles is possible beyond classical boundaries, could something similar occur with human personality? Science is only taking the first steps, but the path is exciting and complex. This discovery truly changed views on the nature of connection between quantum objects and formed the basis of assumptions that consciousness, as a quantum entity, can exist beyond the usual constraints of space and time. One can imagine consciousness as a complex quantum pattern, constantly changing and inseparably connected with the universe. It should be said that among scientists, debates do not subside. There are those who are for and those who are against the theory of quantum immortality. One of the main opponents is Max Tegmark, a physicist from MIT, who applied strict quantum mechanics principles to analyzing brain function. His calculations showed that quantum superpositions in the brain must collapse in an incredibly short time, only femtoseconds, which is incomparable to the timescales of neural processes measured in milliseconds. It seems this questions the possibility that quantum effects could play a key role in consciousness functioning. But despite such arguments, the idea of quantum consciousness continues to develop and gain new aspects thanks to experiments in quantum biology. Thus appeared an important article published in Physical Review Letters in 2025, where a group of physicists investigated experimental evidence of quantum entanglement in biological systems. In this series of studies, scientists examined the mysterious phenomenon of quantum entanglement, when particles become connected even at great distance. They conducted complex experiments and discovered that this connection works by universal laws that persist even in a noisy, warm, humid, and complex environment, such as biological systems. In their experiments, they placed special samples resembling molecules and structures from living systems in conditions similar to the body's internal environment: warm, humid, and noisy. Using laser beams and particle detectors, researchers could create pairs of entangled particles and monitor how long and how strongly they remained connected. It was particularly important to observe whether this connection would break due to fluctuations and other factors characteristic of biological systems. The results showed that despite these adverse conditions, quantum entanglement can persist long enough to potentially affect the function of biological molecules and cells. This approach was new and complex, as it was previously thought, and Max Tegmark's criticism was built precisely on this, that quantum effects rapidly collapse in living environments. Now, this discovery offers hope that quantum processes really matter for understanding biology and consciousness. This means quantum entanglement can exist in living organisms, supporting processes related to consciousness, and that the quantum foundation of consciousness can be stable and enduring. And this already connects the discoveries with the idea of quantum immortality, the assumption that consciousness can persist and continue outside the body thanks to quantum effect. Thus, scientists take a step toward understanding how consciousness immortality might be not fantasy but reality, supported by quantum physics laws. So, scientists described how quantum states can pass through biological membranes and interact with neural structures, potentially supporting the idea that consciousness, and possibly its immortal quantum essence, can exist beyond traditional physical body boundaries. Special attention deserves the contribution of Dutch theoretician Gerard 't Hooft, Nobel laureate, whose work on information preservation within quantum theory became the basis for modern views on consciousness immortality. In the scientific community, he is regarded as an inspiring mentor to many young scientists, encouraging the pursuit of new knowledge and solving the hardest problems. His scientific career is an example of how perseverance and genius can change our understanding of the world and bring humanity closer to unraveling great mysteries. Born in the mid-20th century in the Netherlands, Gerard showed exceptional interest in exact sciences from early years. Graduating from Utrecht University, he quickly stood out as a talented researcher, focusing on quantum mechanics and field theory problems. His work helped shed light on mysterious aspects of physical laws. In particular, he proved important theorems on information preservation and symmetries in quantum theory. These theories form the foundation of modern concepts of information preservation in the cosmos, connected with understanding black holes and quantum processes. One of the highest recognitions of his contribution was the Nobel Prize in Physics awarded in the early 21st century. He received this award for a breakthrough in quantum field theory and the understanding of gravitational and quantum interactions. This event not only marked him as an outstanding scientist, but also emphasized the significance of his ideas for the entire scientific world. Thus, Gerard 't Hooft claims that the fundamental law of information preservation is not violated even when the physical body is destroyed, but information transforms and passes into other states. This allows viewing death not as the end, but as a change in the form of existence. Gerard 't Hooft, despite his modesty, had a huge influence on theoretical physics with his ideas about information preservation, which today play a key role in understanding quantum immortality. He emphasizes that information is the foundation of being, and physics merely describes ways of its transformation and propagation through the universe. Here again, the concept of information preservation comes onto the stage, which on molecular and even fundamental levels can become the key to immortality. Confirmation of these ideas comes through groundbreaking quantum experiments, where scientists increasingly study particle properties under extreme conditions. This leads to the understanding that death is more a process of transformation than the absolute end of existence. At the heart of this thought lies hope that immortality is possible in the quantum sense. Philosophical reflections on quantum immortality largely resonate with Robert Lanza's biocentrism ideas, which place consciousness at the center of the cosmos, asserting that space, time, and even death are only constructs arising thanks to conscious perception. Despite criticism, many leading scientists consider biocentrism an important direction to seek new understandings of existence. Modern technologies bring us closer to experimental confirmation of these models. The use of quantum simulators and advanced methods of neural activity visualization opens new possibilities to study the nature of consciousness and its connection with the quantum microworld. A big question remains, which we ask ourselves and study together. How far will science go in unraveling the mysteries of life and death? And what role will quantum physics play in uncovering secrets of our consciousness and possible immortality? These questions are not only about science, but about the very meaning of existence, opening new horizons for creativity, exploration, and hope. Let's pause and look back at how it all began. In the early 20th century, Max Planck, a German physicist, made a revolutionary assumption. Energy cannot be infinitely divisible, but is transferred in portions he called quanta. This discovery became the foundation of all quantum mechanics and earned Planck the Nobel Prize. His idea seemed absurd, since until then everyone thought energy flowed continuously, like water from a faucet. But this discovery explained why atoms do not break apart, why light behaves both as a particle and as a wave simultaneously. Later, Niels Bohr, a Danish physicist and one of the founders of quantum theory, proposed a model of the atom where electrons can exist only on certain orbits, not anywhere. This was like planets revolving around the sun, only at strictly defined distances, and not at any distance. Bohr also introduced the notion of complementarity. Particles and waves are not contradictory, but complement each other depending on how we observe them. This idea astonished minds, including philosophers, and even Einstein, despite doubts, acknowledged quantum mechanics is something new and inexplicable within old framework. It is important to understand that quantum theory not only describes strange phenomena, but also poses fundamental questions about the nature of observation. In the famous thought experiment with Schrödinger's cat, Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger showed that until moment of observation, the cat can be simultaneously alive and dead. This is not just imagination, but a real consequence of quantum laws. This approach makes us ponder. What happens when we stop being observers? Modern experiments confirm that quantum effects manifest even on the macroscopic level. In 2019, a group of scientists from Delft University demonstrated quantum entanglement between two diamonds separated by more than 1 meter. This means that even large objects can be connected by quantum forces, and their states depend on each other regardless of distance. Such discoveries force reconsidering boundaries between the microworld and our everyday experience. If quantum entanglement exists even between large objects, then possibly consciousness and personality do not disappear in the classical sense. After all, if information is not lost but passes into another state, then perhaps we do not die but simply change form. This thought is not only scientific but philosophical, and it opens space for new reflection. Try to imagine that each of your choices, every memory, every thought is not just a biochemical reaction, but a quantum event that can persist in the universe's structure. Such an exercise helps feel a connection to something greater than just the body. Science moves forward constantly, and in attempts to unravel consciousness mysteries, researchers turn to the deepest aspects of quantum physics and biology. Modern experiments convince us that the brain is not just a biochemical apparatus, but the most complex quantum system capable of incredible computational ability. Recent developments in quantum biology revealed astounding properties of nature. For instance, studies of photosynthesis processes in plants show that energy is transferred with astonishing efficiency due to quantum coherence. When particles behave like waves, promoting nearly faultless energy transfer. This discovery broadens horizons in understanding biological systems and reminds us that quantum phenomena are not laboratory artifacts, but an integral part of living nature. Even more impressive is the understanding of quantum connectivity in living organisms. Bird navigation, possessing the ability to sense Earth's magnetic field, can be explained through quantum entanglement inside certain biomolecules. This demonstrates that nature uses quantum physics laws to ensure high-precision biological functions. Such a context drives scientists to consider consciousness as a quantum information field that is not limited by traditional bodily confines. It remains a mystery how far this quantum entity extends. Can it go beyond life in the physical body and cross death boundaries? Ethics and philosophy here play no less important role. The consequences of quantum immortality theory for humans, society, morality, and religious teachings are discussed. How would our attitude to life change if we learn that consciousness is multifaceted and continues beyond the body? These questions require reflection in the broadest sense. Along with technological progress, consciousness research methods develop. Quantum brain simulations, advanced neuroimaging, and computer technologies open new opportunities. Precise models allowing glimpses into consciousness processes, its structure, and possibly the nature of immortality are being created. Your participation in this topic discussion is important. Subscribe to the channel, leave likes, and share thoughts in the comments, because science is a living process where each of us can be part of a great discovery. The course of scientific research often resembles a tense dialogue between certainty and doubt. While science approaches the mystery of consciousness, important contradictions remain, leading to new questions and findings. For example, quantum theory at first glance can explain the phenomenon of consciousness and its possible immortality, but its interpretations meet serious resistance. One direction of current research is searching for unique biological quantum phenomena, whose existence has yet to be confirmed. Scientists study not only human brain, but also molecular mechanisms that could support quantum coherence despite thermal noise and biological diversity. This is a difficult task, and science so far does not give definite answers, though quantum biology enthusiasts see a path here to solving the mystery of consciousness. Important recent work has been on integrating quantum models with artificial intelligence. Scientists try to use quantum calculations to model brain function, bringing us closer to creating new forms of consciousness and understanding its structure. These studies open the future where machine and biology interaction may develop into a qualitatively new level of interaction with the quantum world. Moreover, Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory reveals consciousness as a result of integrating and synthesizing a huge amount of information in the brain. That means the consciousness level correlates with the degree of interconnectedness of parts of the system. If these quantum mechanics principles apply to the brain, then consciousness is something more than the sum of neural interactions and possibly persists beyond the body. Tononi's and colleagues' research formed the basis for new approaches in neurobiology and philosophy of consciousness, allowing models where immortality becomes a conceptual possibility, not merely fantasy. For those wanting to grasp this complexity simply, it helps to imagine consciousness as a glowing network where each thought is a spark connected with millions of others. Imagine this light can flow between energetic branches without fading after the physical body is destroyed. Such a vision aids meditative exercises focusing on the sense of perception continuity, as if watching an infinitely unwinding skein of possibilities. Against the background of scientific pursuits, philosophical debates do not subside. Particularly discussed are the questions of subjective experience, identity, and memory significance in context of quantum immortality. Can quantum information passing from one state to another preserve a person's individuality? Or in the diversity of parallel worlds, does consciousness fragment into many pieces? These reflections find no definitive answer, but lead us to deep understanding of our I nature. Special attention deserves the ethical aspect. The development of scientific understanding of immortality sounds like a challenge to traditional moral and religious concept. If consciousness can exist outside the body, can a person become truly immortal? How would this affect society, family structure, and even human values? These questions demand careful thought and open dialogue. Within the scientific community, more signs show that the study of quantum consciousness goes beyond narrow physics and becomes interdisciplinary field. On one hand, research shows quantum processes in the brain can generate consciousness phenomenon capable of persisting in various forms. However, the very idea of quantum immortality requires answers on continuity of subjective experience and consciousness ability to change states while maintaining awareness. Increasing number of studies involve physics, biology, psychology, and philosophy, cooperating to create a holistic picture. This journey continues, and each new discovery illuminates the mysteries of our existence, making one think that immortality is not just myth, but real phenomenon, understandable through science prism. In recent years, various theories have developed trying to explain how quantum information can not only be preserved, but also spread between parallel realities. These theories are based on complex mathematical models and high-level experiment results, generating new philosophical views on life and death nature. As we have said, ethical and social consequences of possible recognition of quantum immortality cannot be ignored. What does it mean to live in eternity? How would society change if human consciousness truly becomes immortal? To what extent will freedom of choice exist in a world with many parallel event versions? These are questions science and philosophy just begin to approach, realizing the future brings not only discoveries, but new challenges for humanity. Together with technologies, AI achievements, and quantum computing development, we stand on the threshold of a new era. This era promises not only scientific and technological breakthroughs, but also rises in humanistic values based on deep understanding of human consciousness and its mysteries. Recent research paints a bright but complex science future where knowledge and technology will allow approaching one of humanity's oldest mysteries, nature of consciousness and immortality questions. And finally, would you like to learn more about these incredible discoveries changing our views on life and death? Subscribe to the channel, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Together, we will continue on the path of knowledge, exploring the most intimate secrets of the quantum world and immortality.